I'm Ashton from EventChain for Investment Pitch Media and FinTech News Network. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Kye Browning, the conference manager of the XLIVE conference and the XLIVE eSports Summit. Kye, thank you so much for being on the show. It's a pleasure to have you on today.
Hey, thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm excited to hear a little bit about the XLIVE conference. I did attend last year, and it was a great conference overall, and I'm looking forward to hearing about this upcoming conference for this year. XLIVE mentions that you guys cultivate big ideas for extraordinary experiences in events. Can you elaborate on what that means and what the focus of this year's conference is?
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole purpose of XLIVE is to bring together thought leaders in the live event space, to network, to share best practices, to solve common problems. And our hopes at the end of the day is to take everything that we've learned through keynote sessions, breakout tracks, panels, roundtable discussions, all of that, to elevate the fan experience, to improve that fan experience year over year, because at the end of the day, we all want our attendees to come back. And so what are we doing to make it a new and fresh experience every year?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And you really have to make it unique. I know that there are other live event conferences as well. And so what would you say makes XLIVE so unique and special and brings people back?
I think what makes us so unique is that we touch almost every facet of the live entertainment space, from music festivals, concerts, and touring, to culinary events, to sporting events, both traditional venues and arenas and stick and ball sports like baseball, basketball, football, but as well as participatory sports like color runs, warrior dashes, Spartan races, things like that. We touch in the eSports sector, which has live events, but as well as so many other things as far as an engagement and entertainment perspective is concerned. We also touch and work with brands and agencies and branded events and activations at Event Technology. So again, we're trying to bring all of these thought leaders from all of these different sectors together to share kind of what they're all doing. Because at the end of the day, we're all facing more or less the same issues, but we're all doing it in a different way, right? If you're in the music space, you're so heads down on music that you forget about that there's other people maybe in the sports industry or the culinary industry that are facing issues with safety and security or secondary ticket marketing or anything like that. And so, you can learn from others from different industries and saying, oh, you guys have already solved it one way. Let's find ways that we can apply that to our market.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And one of the things that really stuck out for me last year and when I attended XLIVE was the awards at the end of the conference, where the top food conferences came, the top music festivals were there, the top streaming, the top sports, the top presentations. What can you say about the caliber of event organizers that are at the conference? And are you expecting to do something similar this year?
Yeah, so a lot of it this year specifically, we are looking at other avenues to kind of showcase the greatest thought leaders in the space. So we are putting the FestX Awards on the back burner this year specifically, and kind of retooling it so that we can make it a bigger and better experience for years to come. Because we do feel that it is important to showcase those industry leaders, both in any industry that you're in. But as far as the caliber of people and events that are involved in XLIVE, they're the cream of the crop, right? And it's everything from small events to, craft beer festivals, to everything from like the Super Bowl to the Olympics to Coachella and everything in between. So it is, again, those C-suite executives and those event producers that are, again, engaging with those fan experiences, engaging with those consumers to create these extraordinary live event experiences.
Mm-hmm. And what other trends are you expecting that have changed since last year's event? And also, is the event growing? Is there larger? Is there going to be more attendees? What's the expected turnout?
Yeah, I think we're always expecting to grow. Last year, we were just shy of about 1,000, and we should be around that ballpark this year. But, some trends that we're seeing a lot more conversations around inclusion and diversity initiatives. Really, how are we incorporating all genders, all backgrounds into the live event, whether it's from an attendee standpoint, but as well as an executive standpoint, and how are we building those teams? We're also seeing a lot of trends with blockchain, with like mixed reality, so AR, VR, and other things like that. And then some other things trend-wise is is eSports specifically, and how that is developing into the live entertainment ecosystem. What was just people playing games on computers at home have turned into these very large spectating events where you have arenas and venues sold out within 10, 15 minutes, and packed throughout the entire weekend that they're there. And so those are, I'd say, the three big things that we're kind of keeping an eye on moving forward into this year and beyond.
That's great, Kye. And I've seen the growth in esports. We've started ticketing a lot of esports arenas. They're popping up all across North America. The trend is moving over from Asia, and it looks like it's gotten so big that you guys are actually starting a whole separate conference just for esports. So that's really exciting, and that's going to be later next year, I believe. But is there still going to be a lot of esports incorporated into the upcoming XLIVE conference here?
There will be, yeah. So our esports standalone event, we've actually been producing for 4 years on its own, which it started off as a track within XLIVE annual conference that will be happening in November. And so that focus is really to identify and define a lot of the nuances within the esports landscape from a streaming perspective, an investment perspective, a player standpoint, all of that type of stuff. But in regards to our annual conference, because we're so heavily focused on the live event experience, all of the paneling and programming around esports will be dedicated to that space. So, how to produce an esports event. We'll have a session or two around just the general kind of state of the space of what esports is. So if you're new to the space and don't know it, or just want to learn more, we have a session around that. We also have a couple sessions around overlap markets between esports and other traditional entertainment markets, whether that be music or sports or anything like that. There's a lot more parallels and overlaps that we may not be giving credit to, and so that session in and of itself is kind of shining light on that topic. And then we're also hosting a special viewing of a documentary that was produced by Red Bull and 705 Hollywood around a very large esports event and an esports team, Team OG, and the International. So we'll be doing a screening with the producers, as well as a live Q&A after the fact to kind of just learn and dissect that esports landscape a little bit more.
Well, that's super exciting, Kye. I'm looking forward to that. And hopefully I get a glimpse of that at the XLIVE conference coming up. And now, one of the major trends is, of course, music festivals and live music events. And I know that's a huge part of the conference. What do you see as the newest trends enhancing the experience for attendees as they are attending live music events?
I think what that really comes down to is how brands are activating. There's been lots of reports and articles written with, Coachella becoming the Olympics of branded activations. You see very similar things with South by Southwest, EDC, Bonner, things like that. And so I really think that, this whole rise of experiential marketing and creating these FOMO, Instagrammable experiences. And it's really different than the way that most marketing is done, right? Most people are used to having KPIs and ROIs saying, okay, if we spend so much money, we should be getting so much in return. Where, with an activation like this, it's how many impressions can we get on Instagram and how many times can we get this shared and things like that. So there's not so much a hard kind of number of things they're expecting, but at the same time, it's getting the word out because it's very organic in the way that it's getting shared and spread.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And roaming the conference floor last year, I saw that there was quite a diversity in ticketing providers, but there was also many other different types of service providers, from giant booths to Wi-Fi units to other partnerships. Could you talk a little bit about the diversity on the conference floor?
Yeah, so our conference, our exhibit floor is really just to showcase anything and everything needed to improve that event experience, right? And to improve it both from a producer level, but also just make it a more pleasurable experience for the attendees. So you kind of hit it on the head with some of the companies or organizations that you may have saw last year, but we have everything from RFID and ticketing technologies to Wi-Fi beacons to porta potties. We have things like event services, so general contractors that are setting up the staging and things like that. We have a lot of AV providers, and again, anything in that wheelhouse. A lot of ticketing, whether it's from a traditional ticketing side like an Eventbrite or a Ticketfly, or to a blockchain service provider. We also have a lot of kind of tech engagement providers as well. So, whether they tap into your phone or you have to download an app and, you're at a concert and all your phones light up and there's this light show that is, you guys are involved with the light show as an attendee. Again, anything that's there to kind of improve and just enhance that experience. And we're trying to be at the forefront of that as well and just keeping our ear to the ground and trying to really be understanding of what is coming up in the market and trying to get those people at XLIVE to be able to showcase. So that's one really cool thing that we do at XLIVE. On Tuesday morning, we're going to be doing our XLIVE Startup Showcase. So it's, any company that has existed less than 2 years that has this new product that is changing and enhancing the live entertainment space. And so, it'll be a very pitch-like style where, each company will be able to present what their product is, how they're changing the face of live entertainment and kind of live experience. And then we'll have a panel of judges that will kind of judge on that. And then we'll do a whole piece around them and really dive into more of kind of what they're doing and from that part of view.
Very cool. And speaking of the ticketing side, how do you see the current state of counterfeit ticketing and ticket security and identity security as well, predominantly in large outdoor music events and for concerts, and the solutions that are in place to solve these problems, including one of them being blockchain?
Yeah, I think it's always going to be an issue, but I think blockchain solves a lot of those problems, right? I speak for myself, but I've been part of a secondary ticket market, buying tickets and then realizing getting to the door and they've either been used already or it was already a false ticket. Whereas blockchain really solves a lot of those problems, being kind of a ledger system and technology to, say if you've transferred a ticket, then it's no longer yours and transfer that information. I know just from past conversations that I've had that, where blockchain fits kind of the biggest void is in the sports and arena space, just because, how many times does someone buy a season ticket and then they can't go to all of the games, so they sell them. And so, inevitably the venues and the teams have no idea who's actually in those seats. Other than the original person, right? So, say Ashton, you bought the season ticket, but you sold it to me. Well, now I'm in your seat and I serve a different demographic than you do. And so, there's a whole swath of solutions that blockchain will provide. There's a few other technologies. We've seen Clear at Met Stadium, introduce their technologies there with facial recognition. We're also seeing a lot of technologies with, cashless apps. And I know that kind of isn't the question that you're asking, but I think that is also another huge thing with both sports and live entertainment in general is, I don't want to be carrying a large sum of money to buy things while I'm at the show. And so we're seeing a lot of that, built into RFID badges, or as well as just having it be able to connect it, wired cashless through a credit card or through your phone or through any other, device that you may already have on hand.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I think part of that also is understanding who the attendee is, being able to know that, if somebody else did buy the ticket on the secondary market, the organizers want to know who those customers are so that they can serve them better and sell them more tickets in the future and ensure that they have the best experience possible. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. No, I would agree 100%. And I think that's where it comes down to is this new generation of entertainment consumers. They want everything to be personalized. Going back to a question that you asked earlier is, what is this biggest trend in kind of the festival market? And it's brand activation, right? And the reason why they like that is because it's this personal Instagrammable experience. And I think we're expecting that as consumers now with the way the internet is and the sense of instant gratification through things like Amazon Prime and being able to order things, and potentially getting them same day, depending on where you live. We're just expecting that for anything that we do. And so if I'm going to go to an event and I'm going to spend large amounts of money just for the ticket and spend even more money while I'm at the venue, I want those people to know who I am. And I want deals and I want discounts, whatever it is, catered to what I do and what I use. And so I think as the sooner companies can attach and find a solution to that or really tap into that market, then they're way ahead of the curve as far as I'm concerned of anybody else in the market.
That's great. Now, would you say that XLIVE is mainly catered towards event organizers, or is it also for investors that are looking at getting into the space and just people interested in trying to get involved? Who is it specifically catered towards?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it's catered to kind of anybody in that live event space, whether you are an investor, or an event producer, right? We are there to provide you the resources to produce a better event, or to provide you with the know-how to get into the space. One component of our show this year is we're doing an M&A workshop, right? A mergers and acquisition workshop of, if you have an event, how do you sell it, or how do you prepare your event to be sold? Or if I'm assuming if you're an investor, you want to learn how to kind of get onto that kind of equation as well, and just know what are kind of the pitfalls of an event, or what are the things, the positive benefits and kind of things that you will get from doing that. But again, it's for anybody in that ecosystem, whether it is a consumer-facing event like a music festival or a sporting event, or a corporate event. Right? There's so many large companies like Google, like Facebook, like Amazon. They're doing corporate internal events. And we host a whole slew of panels and conversations around those topics as well, of how to cater to an internal audience that's very B2B, and not really consumer facing.
That's great, Kye. Well, I'm very much looking forward to it. Could you remind the viewers, when is the event, where is the event, and how can they learn more information, and are tickets still available?
Sure. The event this year is in Las Vegas, November 17th through the 20th. At the MGM Grand. Tickets are still available, and you can find them at xlivecon.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kye. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Looking forward to the event, and let's follow up in the near future.
Awesome, Ashton. I appreciate the time. Thanks for having me.